Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 1.
Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.5.1.
Sutta Vacha.
Sutta Vacha.
Atha.
Ram.
Sukham.
Asinam. Vasinam. Rachrava. Devashi. Rama. Viprashin. Lina. Mani. Maya. Eva.
Sutta Vacha.
Sutta Vacha.
Athatam Sukhamasina.
Athatam Sukhamasina.
Vasinam Prachravaha.
Vasinam Rachravaha.
Devashi Praha Viprashin.
Devashi Praha Viprashin.
Vina Prani Smayan Iva.
Vinatani Smaya Diva.
Athatam Sukham Asina.
Athatam Sukham Asina.
Vasinam Prachravaha.
Vasinam Rachravaha.
Devashi Praha Viprashin.
Devashi Praha Viprashin.
Vina Prani Smayan Iva.
Vinatani Smaya Diva.
Athatam Sukham Asina.
Athatam Sukham Asina.
Vasinam Prachravaha.
Vasinam Rachravaha.
Devashi Praha Viprashin.
Devashi Praha Viprashin.
Vina Pani Smayan Iva.
Vinatani Smaya Diva.
Среди браманов Веда Вьяси. Комментарий его возрастился Бхачар Наравина Бхактисиддханта Свами Śrīla Gopāl Kṛṣṇa. Нарада улыбался, потому что хорошо знал великого мудреца Ведавьясу и причины его разочарования. Как он впоследствии объяснит, Ведавьяса был разочарован потому, что в своих писаниях не уделил достаточно внимания науке преданного служения. Нарада знал о его упущении и состоянии самого Вьясы утверждал это.
Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Sahajana Śrīla Gopāl
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Nishkamra Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Athatam Sukham Asina. Vasinam Prachravaha. Devashi Praha Viprasim. Vina Pani Smayan Iva. So Sutta Goswami is the speaker of this verse, and he's speaking to the sages in Namaśrāṇya. We see the Bhagavatam parallel dialogues going on. Sometimes you read Śrīla Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. Sometimes you read that Sutta Goswami is speaking to the sages. So the explanation is that when Śrīla Goswami was speaking the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, thousands of sages were present on that occasion. And among the sages present was a sage called Sutta Goswami. And Sutta Goswami was later requested by the sages in Namaśrāṇya to give them direction. The sages in Namaśrāṇya were very compassionate and concerned about the future of humanity. That's the nature of a saintly personality. He is concerned about the welfare of the suffering humanity. Saintly personality is paradukha dukhi. That means, seeing others in distress, he also becomes distressed or concerned. And as a result, he meditates as to how society can be elevated to the point of perfection. Like these sages in Namashranya, they were spiritual astrologers. Put in astrology to find out what's going to happen tomorrow. So these spiritual astrologers could see thousands of years ahead, not just 1 or 2 days ahead. Like if you read the Bhagavatam's predictions of the age of Kali, and you minutely analyze every word in each of these slokas, you see that everything that's happening today was already foreseen by the sages 5,000 years ago. I personally discussed this, the 5th canto, the Bhagavatam's prediction of the age of Kali, even in a group with just friends of Krishna or academic scholars. And they say, it looks like these verses were spoken yesterday, not 5,000 years ago, because the description is so authoritative. So, the sages could see that in Kali Yuga, people's lives would be misguided, they would be quarrelsome, they would be spiritually lazy. So the sages were concerned how society could be saved in the future. And so they invited Sutta Goswami to give them direction. Coming him, he repeated exactly the Bhagavatam as he had heard from the lips of Śrīla Gopāl Kṛṣṇa. One who can memorize something by hearing once is called a Shruti Dhara. And Sutta Goswami was a Shruti Dhara. He was able to memorize 18,000 verses by hearing only once. Okay? Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was once having a dialogue with 𝐾𝐲𝐸𝐿 Kashmiri. And 𝐾𝐲𝐸𝐿 Kashmiri was a prominent Sanskrit scholar who had come to Navadip with the intention of defeating all their scholars, especially the Mai Pandit, who was the foremost of them all. So, at the request of the Mai, 𝐾𝐲𝐸𝐿 Kashmiri composed 100 verses in glorification of Mother Ganges. He recited them at the speed of the wind. The Mai, now a young boy, was able to repeat all of them, memorize them, just by hearing one. So Sutta Goswami is explaining here how Narada Muni, he appeared on the scene at the time when Vyasadeva was meditating on the cause of his dissatisfaction.
И Сутта Госвами объясняет здесь то, как Нарада Муни появился на сцене в тот момент, когда Вьясадева медитировал на причину своей неудовлетворенности.
It is said in Bhagavatam, Krishna Swadhama Bhagavate, that the Srimad-Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun. And it has arisen just after the departure of the Lord to his abode. Persons who have lost their vision in Kali Yuga will get direction from the Srimad-Bhagavatam known as the Spotless Purana. So the Lord has returned to his abode. But in a way, now the Lord has returned physically, he has left behind his instructions in the form of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And those who have lost their vision of life can get direction of the vision for life by hearing from the Bhagavatam. So Vyasadeva is considered one of the incarnations of the Lord. And Narada Muni here is being described as Devasi Narada. He is a sage amongst the gods. So as you know in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yada yadahi dharmasya kinari bhavati bharata vyutan vadharmasya vidatmanam sudamaham. I appear from time to time to establish principles of religion. Now the Lord appears himself, or he empowers someone, or the Lord appears also in various incarnations. There are, broadly speaking, 6 broad categories of avatars of the Lord. There is the Purusha avatar category, that is the expansion of the Lord through which the process of creation takes place. Then there is the Guna avatar, Mamantata avatar, Lila avatar, Yuga avatar, and lastly, the Shaktavesh avatar. The Shaktavesh avatar is of 2 categories. It's further subdivided into 2 categories. One is direct and one is indirect. Direct is when the Lord himself descends, and indirected where the Lord empowers a particular personality to perform a particular task to establish religion. So now the Muni is called the best of gods, but he is also a Shaktavesh avatar. Therefore he is called the sage amongst gods.
Поэтому его зовут мудрецом среди богов. Нарада Муни всегда появляется в подходящее время для подходящей цели.
Maharaja was going to the forest to look for God, and who shows up to give him direction? Narada Muni. There's a hunter who takes pleasure in half killing animals, seeing them suffer and then seeing them die. Who shows up to save them? Narada Muni showed up just in the right time to save Narada Muni. So over here we see that Vyasadeva is somewhat confused. Confused in the sense that even though he had worked hard to compile this vast Vedic literature, still there was some element of dissatisfaction in himself. Originally, Vyasadeva compiled one principal Veda known as the Yajurveda. Then he entrusted the task to his different advanced disciples, and it was divided to Rig, Sama and Atharva Vedas.
Затем он доверил следующую задачу своим старшим продвинутым ученикам, которые разделили изначальную Веду на 4, добавив еще Риг, Адхарву и Самаведу.
Then he went ahead and compiled the Puranas, the Samhitas, the Mahabharata, which are known as the 5th Veda or the supplementary Veda.
Затем он продолжил свою работу и написал Пураны, Махабхарату и то есть другие произведения, которые называют 5-й Ведой или же дополнительные Веды, вспомогательные.
So Vyasadeva, just like he compiled the Mahabharata, for those who are less intelligent, Mahabharata is a greater history of the planet, and it has many stories. But these stories all have a moral purport, and these are all true stories, not fiction or imagination, as some people, less intelligent people think. Actually, Vyasadeva was working for the welfare of the people in general. He had nothing motivated, nothing personal. As you explained earlier, that's the nature of a sage, and he works for the welfare of the people in general. So now he compiled all this literature, still he was feeling there is something that is missing in his presentation. What was the reason? Now there is such detailed knowledge in the Vedas, nevertheless, in the Vedas, in what was compiled, there is also a little tinge of fruitive activities or scope of sense enjoyment mentioned. And then Vyasadeva was limited. Maybe I'm unhappy because I have not presented the path of pure devotional service which is inevitable. So Vyasadeva was feeling that he was beginning to guess what could be the cause of this dissatisfaction. And as he was meditating on this, Narada Muni appears on the scene to give him further enlightenment. So even a great personality like Vyasadeva over here is taking direction from his spiritual master. Gopāl Kṛṣṇa for the path of self-realization has proposed the following. One should take shelter of a bona fide saint or spiritual master. One should then take initiation.
Нужно получить его инициацию.
One should then serve him.
Следует служить ему.
And one should inquire, how can I make spiritual advancement? And then, if one has to give up something that's unfavorable for spiritual advancement, one should be willing to give that up. Just like in the material condition, if something's bad for health, we give it up. If something's good for health, we take it. So, Narada Muni is being questioned by Vyasadeva as to what is the cause of his dissatisfaction. Narada Muni has a great fortune of getting transcendental knowledge from Lord Brahma. And Brahma had realized this knowledge in his heart. Brahma had performed very extensive sacrifices for austerity. He is the original student and professor of the Vedas. He meditated for 1,000 years, 1,000 celestial years, and the time calculation varies from planet to planet. There are 6 months equal to 12 hours of the celestial planet. So Brahma, after performing this extensive meditation, he realized spiritual knowledge in his heart. The Lord received, Brahma received the spiritual knowledge in his heart. So Brahma understood the spiritual knowledge and then taught it to whom? Who? To Narada Muni. So Narada Muni described to be the second Acharya in the line of disciplic succession. So Vyasadeva was meditating. He more or less suspected the cause of his dissatisfaction, and as he was further meditating, Narada Muni appeared on the scene, smiling and began to give him direction. Narada Muni knew the defect. So even in our personal spiritual life, we should constantly inquiring, are we on the right track? Am I doing the right thing? Is there something I need to correct? Narada Muni in this chapter is going to describe to Vyasadeva the exact cause of his disappointment and the need to present literature that exclusively presents the process of pure devotional service as a medium. It is said, Sarve punsam paro dharmo yato bhakti adhaukshade ahipratagya pratiyata yatma suprasidati. The self can only be satisfied when we engage in paro dharmo or selfless devotional service to the Lord. The self cannot be satisfied by any other means. That has been made very clear in the opening chapters of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. If we engage in fruitive activities, even engage in dharma for the purpose of artha, kama, moksha, then we can never be satisfied. Generally, why do people take dharma or religion? Doesn't matter where you reside. Why do people take dharma? They want artha, economic wealth. And when they get economic wealth, then what do they want? Just like you see in Moscow, a lot of people are getting economic wealth now. So what do they want? Last time we've gone to a program in someone's house, and it was really like a dream city. So when they get economic wealth, what do they want? They want to use the money for their sense enjoyment. But then they realize even this is not going to satisfy them. Then they shoot for something higher. Only shoot for higher if they're really lucky. Most people don't even shoot for moksha. Most people just want to die with karma only. Even the concept of moksha only comes if you have some level of spiritual understanding. Most of the millionaires today probably don't even think of moksha. So, generally, when people take the religion, they take it for a motivated reason. Prabhupada discusses this point in his long introduction to the Bhagavatam. As you may have noted, Prabhupada has given a very long introduction to the Srimad-Bhagavatam in the first canto. And he says, generally, people take the dharma for the purpose of artha, kama. But he says, if artha comes without dharma, then people don't even want dharma. And Prabhupada gives the example of the churches in the Western countries. He says now that people are getting economic prosperity without dharma, so the churches, the places of worship are becoming empty places of worship. So even if one takes a dharma for the purpose of artha, kama, he only takes if he has some knowledge of scriptural, he has some scriptural knowledge, he has some faith and teaching of God. Otherwise, people don't even take the dharma. So, however, Vyasadeva had presented the Vedic knowledge, obviously for those who were going to develop or who had faith in God. But since there was a tinge of mutual satisfaction or fruitive activities in these scriptures, he felt that this is not really the ultimate solution. Therefore, on the advice of Vyasadeva, on the advice of Narada Muni, he later on gave us the Srimad-Bhagavatam. The Srimad-Bhagavatam is described as the Spotless Purana. It is described as the Spotless Purana in the sense that the entire Bhagavatam is aimed at giving us only one knowledge, that is of the process of pure devotional service. Therefore, at the very beginning of the Bhagavatam it is said, Dharma projitaha kaitvatva nirmataro satam. This Srimad-Bhagavatam completely rejects the utilization of dharma for artha, kama and moksha. Instead it propounds the highest truth. And it says, Digama kalpa karor kalitam phalam. This Srimad-Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. And it's a ripened fruit that is coming down through the process of disciplic succession. Prabhupada gives an example in the purport, just like if you were to pass a fruit from the top of the tree to different individuals sitting in different branches, then by the time that fruit reaches the ground, it will be intact. Prabhupada? But if on the other hand, the fruit is thrown from the top of the tree, then by the time it hits the earth, it will be shattered into pieces. So we have the great fortune of receiving the Bhagavatam's knowledge directly from a chain of disciplic succession. Sometimes people say, Parikshit Maharaj had the fortune of hearing directly from 𝐾𝐲 Goswāmī. The sages had the fortune of hearing directly from 𝐶ūta Goswami. Arjuna had the fortune of hearing directly from Krishna. But we don't have this fortune. So, how do we get transcendental knowledge? So, what's the answer? The answer is given by Prabhupada in one of the purports in the 4th canto. Prabhupada says, if one is fortunate enough to receive this message from a representative of 𝐾𝐲 Goswami or 𝐶ūta Goswami or Krishna, then he'll get the same benefit that Arjuna got by hearing from Krishna, Parikshit got, Maharaj got from hearing from 𝐾𝐲 Goswami, and the sages got from hearing from 𝐶ūta Goswami. So, we should receive this knowledge from an authentic source. So Vyasadeva said, please describe to me the root cause of my dissatisfaction, because you're a sage of unlimited knowledge. Because you are the offspring of Lord Brahma, who is described to be self-born. Lord Brahma, as we said, instructed this knowledge to Narada. Brahma had this task of doing this creation. And who were the entities in this creation? Those who had a tendency to enjoy. Which just like they said in the Prema Vivarta, Krishna bhai mukha hancha bhoga vancha kare, ekata sa maya kare jipatya dhare. When a living entity in the spiritual abode develops a desire to enjoy like the Lord, he has to leave the spiritual world and come to the material world. So Brahma had to create a situation where if somebody wanted to try and experiment and enjoy material life, he could have that facility. And so Brahma created certain principles of nescience. What were the principles of nescience that Brahma created? He created first the principle of self-deception. Self-deception means not understanding you, who you are, or confusing, not understanding the nature of the eternal soul. Then Brahma created the false sense of proprietorship. So we all have this false sense of proprietorship. Just like yesterday I was saying that someone sent me an email message saying Moscow has the maximum number of young billionaires in the world now, even more than American cities. So they have all these youthful billionaires, but due to false sense of proprietorship, the thing is all mine, it's not yours. So we have this false sense of proprietorship. The different nations are thinking, this is all for me, you can't share it. We just had a big tour of southern Russia for over 2 weeks. And we were moving from one city to another, going in cars. So sometimes we drive for 4, 5 hours without seeing a single human being on the road. So much земли, so much land, and there's nothing being done over there. Really false sense of proprietorship. There's so much land on this planet, but every different individual countries are thinking, this is ours, this is ours.
И из-за этого чувства ложной собственности на планете столько земли, но разные страны думают, что это моя, моя, моя.
The whole world is overpopulated to do killing, abortion. The earth can produce far more grains than are being produced. The earth can produce more milk, more fruits. But due to false sense of proprietorship, for fear that if you produce too much, the prices will come down. They don't even produce a fraction of what their potential is. Then they see there's starvation. Man-made, not God-made. God has given enough for everyone. The Isha Upanishad said, as Prabhupada quoted to Dr. Ǩē𝐗 when he came, Isha Vaśedam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagadan Jagan. One should keep as much as they need. Beyond that, give it shared with others. So someone's going to say, hey, you're preaching communism, isn't that what we just gave up? No, we are preaching spiritual communism. What we gave up was material communism. We are preaching the principle that everything belongs to the Lord. So false sense of proprietorship is one of the aspects of medicine. Then Brahma created fear of death. So everyone has a fear of death, isn't it?
У всех есть страх смерти, не так ли?
All the Moscow people don't have. So there is this fear of death. Fear of death is there especially with the materialists, because they don't know what's going to happen. The devotees have no fear of death, especially if somebody uses life in service of the Lord. He knows his body is going to enter it tomorrow in any case. So if one is prepared, then what's the fear? It's like that story in the scriptures of the sage who was traveling with his disciple. The sage was traveling with his disciple and they came across a prince. The prince was handsome, born in a rich family, good karma. And he was getting ready to go shooting. So the sage could see he was loading up his gun to go hunting. So the king, the prince told the sage, can you give me some blessings?
Царевич спросил на лице, не могли бы мне, пожалуйста, дать какое-нибудь благословение?
So the sage looked at him and said, may you live forever. Going further, he passed by a butcher's shop. And the butcher came out and said, Swamiji, any blessings for me? Swami saw what a cruel business this man is killing innocent animals. So the Swami said, don't live, don't die. He said, what a funny blessing. You can't live, you can't die, then where do you go? So later, they came across a nice brahmachari. Maybe from Moscow. So they came across a nice brahmachari who had never sinned from his birth. He was a Gurukul graduate. So we have many good Gurukul graduates. It's not that they all fall in Maya. Some do, but not all. So this boy was a spotless brahmachari. He never sinned from his birth. So he saw the sage, said, Swami, any blessings? And the sage said, will you die immediately? So the disciple was really bewildered. Then a little later, they saw a nice pujari. And the sage blessed his liver die. Makes no difference. So the disciple naturally was confused and he asked for clarification. He was certainly confused because the nice brahmachari was told, may you die immediately. So the sage replied. He told the prince, may you live forever. When the prince in a good karma is taking birth in an aristocratic oligarch family, but now he's doing all sinful work. So for all these sins he's committing, he'll have to pay the price. And when death comes, the punishment process gets intensified. So may you live forever. Then he told the butcher, don't live, don't die. The butcher's living and killing innocent animals. So for him to live is a liability. Karma, when you do negative karma, it's just like taking a loan. You borrow money from a bank or from a friend on interest. For some moments your pocket becomes a little richer, you have money in your pocket now. But then you have to pay! So you take on a liability. Someone may say, oh, but so many people take loans and don't pay it. They go bankrupt, they hide. The police can never catch them. Like some businessmen have a habit of starting business, borrowing money, then going bankrupt, then a few years later starting another business and a different name, borrowing money, again going bankrupt. You can't.
То есть, и спрашивают, может быть, можно это делать без кармы?
You can't escape punishment from Yamraja's militia. So, when you do some negative karma, you're just taking on liability. You have to pay for that in any case. So, he told the butcher, don't live, don't die. Living is to pay, and after death you have to pay for all this. Just like the laws of nature are so severe, that even if you take a piece of cow's flesh, you have to take your birth equal to the number of hairs in the cow's body and get slaughtered that many times. So he said, don't live, don't die. So the laws of nature are so severe. The laws of nature are so severe. So he said, don't live, don't die. Because when he dies, he's like, all these innocent animals he's killed, they're all going to take revenge. And he told the nice brahmachari, when he died, why? And brahmachari had not done any sin from birth. So if he dies, he's guaranteed to go back to Godhead. What's higher than this? Tomorrow he could fall in Maya, but as of today he has a clean record.
Завтра он может в маю упасть, но пока до сегодняшнего дня у него было, то есть не было ни одного замечания.
And he told the Pujari, live a time, makes some difference. So he engages in devotional service as a devotee, and when he dies, he continues devotional service. You do 10% in this life, he started 11% in the next life. And you do 100% in this life, then you go back to God. Choice is ours. So, Brahmaji created this principle of fear of death. The one who doesn't have an understanding of the position of the soul, who doesn't know the difference between body and soul, is always fearful of death. Therefore you see, the maturest never wants to die. All these equipment to keep people artificially alive now, and they do that even now the person may be like a vegetable, but still they keep him artificially alive. It's because of this fear of death. Then Brahmaji created another aspect of illusion called anger after frustration. Anger after frustration. You get frustrated, you don't get what you want, then you become angry. When do people manifest anger? After frustration. Child's okay as long as you give him what he wants. Don't give him what he wants, he gets angry. So, anger after frustration. So, Brahmaji created. So, there's Brahmaji created these different aspects of ignorance. But then he felt, what have I done? If people are just going to be less fans, then how are they going to get out of this entanglement? Then he created a path of knowledge. He created a path of Bhakti Yoga, Sankhya Yoga. He created Sankhya Yoga also, which is the analytical study of matter and spirit, culminates in Bhakti Yoga as explained by Lord Kapila Dev. And Brahmaji created the path of tapasya or austerity and the path of yoga. Because, so by creating both the path of innocence and the path of knowledge, the living entity has a free choice of choosing either and proceeding. So, Brahmaji by creating both gave us a choice now. So Vyasadeva had got this knowledge from Narada Muni, and he begs Narada Muni for guidance, acknowledging Narada Muni's superior position, because he said, you are worshipping the Supreme Lord, who is the source of everything ritual and spiritual. Narada Muni has a very exalted position, as we said. He's like a sun who can travel in all the three worlds. For you to travel, you need a passport, visa, dengue, billiard. Narada Muni doesn't need either of this. And he can travel not on this planet, upper, lower. So Narada Muni, he can travel everywhere. And he's like the air that can penetrate everywhere.
И так Нарада Муни может странствовать повсюду, он подобен воздуху, который может также проникнуть куда угодно.
Air can penetrate everywhere, isn't it? Narada Muni can penetrate everywhere. Vyasadeva got direction from this powerful personality, Narada Muni. And Narada Muni's advice was that he should exclusively present the path of pure devotional service by which one dedicates one's body, mind and senses in service to the Lord. Because this is the only medium through which the self can really be satisfied. So to summarize the verse, in this 5th chapter, you will see Narada Muni responding to Vyasadeva's inquiry. Vyasadeva was lamenting, meditating on the cause of his dissatisfaction, and as he was sitting on the banks of the river Saraswati, there walked in the great sage. In the past, next to these sacred rivers, people would have spiritual discussions. Right next to rivers, what do people do? Go for sensitive. In Jagannath Puri, there's this nice sacred river where Lord Chaitanya used to take a bath every day, where he took Haridas Thakur's body and bathed it after he left his body. But today when he goes in, it's become like a prime spot of sense enjoyment for Jagannath Puri. You have all these hotels there. So Vyasadeva on the banks of the Saraswati was just meditating. Narada Muni's spiritual master appeared to give him firm guidance. And Narada Muni's instruction was to describe the transcendental glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Fame, form, pastime of the unlimited Lord. The Lord is unlimited. His pastimes are unlimited. His glories are unlimited. Devotees take pleasure in hearing this.
Complacent.
Devotee should never be complacent. Devotee never wants to waste 1 minute. Krishna says the perfect yogi doesn't sleep too much, doesn't sleep too little. It's not that as we advance in Krishna consciousness, stay long in Krishna consciousness, we increase our sleep, we increase our eating, we increase our ritual involvement. So, we should never become complacent. We should always remember every second belongs to Krishna, so to use it productively. In fact, as you advance spiritually, your mood should be not to waste 1 second. Because if you become complacent, there's a danger of a relapse. It's like sometimes you're recovering from a disease. Doctor gives you medicine. Then you stop taking the medicine. You think I'll recover now. Then you get a relapse. So we have to be alert so we don't get a relapse. So should I stop? Okay, pass me off.
Махарадж, как определить, вот сколько ты прошел по духовному пути и сколько еще осталось? Потому что иногда кажется, что не идешь вперед, а наоборот возвращаешься назад.
How can we understand how far have we advanced along the spiritual path and how much do we still have to finish? Because sometimes it appears that we are moving backwards, not forward.
This is the Hare Krishna melody. It was the Hare Krishna melody, Hare Krishna. So the Hare Krishna melody was just meant to make sure you're awake.
Специально позвонили, чтобы вы проснулись.
Okay. Well, every devotee should constantly be thinking, evaluating, am I making advancement or not? Just like when you're sick, you have high fever. Every minute you will touch your forehead, you see the thermometer to see the fever is coming down or not. So what's our test?
Как мы проверяем?
How attached am I getting to the holy name? How attached am I getting to reading? How attached am I getting to serving, associating? To take the help of Guru Sadhu Shastra to determine that.
Поэтому прибегайте к помощи Гуру Саду Шастры для того, чтобы определить.
So I'll stop at this point.
На этом я закончу.
We'll do the program again this evening.
Мы проведем еще одну небольшую программу сегодня.
5:30.
5:30.
Yes.
И где-то по 4:30 Громпрач приедет сюда пораньше, поэтому те, у кого есть отдельные вопросы, могут прийти. На выходные я буду в Козловом кольцу ездить.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.